All right, everyone. Guess we gotta do this. Welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 11 recap. Did anything interesting happen this week? I'll be honest, just not paying much attention. But yeah, we did actually have some interesting matchups come down to Monday night. We also had a nail biter between Possum Magic and Shawshank Athletics, which is Josh being the first, or the defending champion. He's the first team we talk about every week, so we might as well just dive right into that one. Shawshank Athletics versus Possum Magic. Actually, had to go over this one a couple times just to make sure everything was square, and it was. Well, actually, it wasn't. Had to go back and somehow Possum Magic had an extra point. I am not sure if Sunday night, perhaps when I was doing the scores, I was actually doing the scores on my phone instead of on the computer because I was watching, after the football game, I was watching on Disney Plus a live broadcast of, I guess, one of Elton John's final concerts. It's like, oh, that seems interesting. I'll watch that. I've never actually seen an Elton John concert. Missed the opportunity whenever he was around here in Pittsburgh. Definitely a legend. So that was actually it wasn't great, but it was pretty interesting to watch. But I guess I could have done that anytime now that it's on demand. But I guess it was live from Dodger Stadium, so that was actually kind of neat. So I was doing the scores while watching that. So I figured better double check, go back and double check, stick to my usual routine, make sure everything was on the up and up. And what I think might have happened was Sunday night, maybe for Tree Size, Possum Magic there, I think maybe they had the first downs wrong for Minnesota. Well, because they had 16. If they had one, they must have had 15, and then they changed it to 16. I'm not sure. Because we had Possum with an extra point there, then I had to go back and take it off when I redid the D scores. But then also didn't notice that Mar, Dallas's kicker, had kicked a 60-yard field goal, which Yahoo actually only gives you 5 for that. So anything that's like 60 and above, I have to go back and make sure that you get at least the proper score there. So I actually had to add a point to Tree Size, a point back to Tree Size's score. But basically just totaled up his kicker score and his defensive score over again. And Yahoo says 21 for Mar, but it was actually 23 thanks to that 60-yard field goal. And Dallas's defense was 35. So it did not change. The little adjustment did not change the outcome of this matchup. Just made it a little bit more painful for Josh. Final score, this should be correct, 189.9 to 189.1. Victory going to Possum Magic. Jalen Hurts goes for 44. Pittman, St. Brown, and Slayton, 13.5, 15, and 13.5 respectively. Damian Pierce, only 3.7. Josh Jacobs, 22. Dulcich, 7. Aaron Jones, 14. And then your kicker and your defense, both from Dallas, said Mar had 23, and Dallas's defense was 34. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we added 15 to your score there, so just enough to get past Shawshank Athletics this week. He went with Herbert, 44.5, Allen Robinson, Jacoby Myers, and Garrett Wilson, 14.7, 9.2, and 3.2. Definitely hurt you there. Derrick Henry, 27.5. Najee Harris, 27.5. Juwan Johnson, New Orleans tight end, another touchdown. He's been a touchdown machine lately. 13.7. Several .7s here in a row. Zeke gets not much, but he does score 2 touchdowns, getting you 17.7. Lutz, your kicker, I pretty sure the actual said these numbers are a little bit more fresher in my mind. 1.1 was added, so you actually got 10.1 for him, and you went this week, made the mistake, I guess, this week of going with the Jets defense. Yahoo says 12, but I remember that the actual score was 21. Yeah, so I believe we bumped you up there, Josh, a little bit. I believe Herbert's very last pass of the Chiefs Chargers game was an interception. So if that doesn't happen, Josh, you win this matchup. Or if he had just completed one more pass. Taking a look at Josh, you also I realize you probably didn't want to start your defense against your quarterback. Doesn't always go terribly. Probably actually would have been a better move for you in this spot. Easy to look back and say that now. Difficult thing to do when you're in that situation, though. You try to avoid it if you can. But fortunately, Josh, you would have been better off. Trying to look and see if there's anything different with your starting lineup you could have done. I don't think so, other than starting a different defense, probably Kansas. I mean, you got the Rams defense too. I don't think that would have been good enough, but Kansas City's defense actually probably would have been good enough. But yeah, this is actually Josh's. I was taking a quick look here. His third loss in a row, meaning he was 6-2. Now he is 6-5. This is his second loss this year by less than 1 point. Here he loses by 0.8, and earlier in the season he suffered a loss by 0.4. So Josh has two losses by a combined total of 1.2. So he is 6-5. He could very easily be 8-3 right now, if not even better. Sorry, Josh, but you are still in the playoff hunt. You're 6-5. You're still in 5th place, and Possum Magic keeps his hopes alive. He is 4-7, but he is still down there in 11th place. All right, let's do the 2 Monday night matchups. Dub C Hooligans versus Saquon and Ain't So. Both of these guys had players. It's all San Francisco on Monday night. Let's see. I don't think I had the actual scores down, what they were before Monday night, but Jay was down 18 to 20 points probably. He still had Kittle to go, but unfortunately, Kevin had both Debo and CMC still to go, and every player, all those guys did really good actually last night. For Jay, Kittle did score 2 touchdowns, but unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough to get you. Actually, you only lost by 4, so that must not have been right because Kittle actually outscored Debo by 2, and you lost, and then so you could have gained some ground there. And McCaffrey's 17, so you must have been down by about 15. I'm gonna guess, going into Monday night. Yeah, unfortunately for Dub C, he was able to hold on, having said both Debo and McCaffrey. Debo scores a touchdown, McCaffrey has a bunch of catches. And even though Kittle did manage to score 2 touchdowns, Dub C gets the victory. 164.35 to 160.15. So a 4.2 margin here. All right, Dub C. Lamar Jackson goes for 40.5. Justin Jefferson, only 6.3. Lazard, 10.7. Debo, 22.5. McCaffrey, 17.5. Stevenson, 14.2. You picked up Smart, a wide receiver, tight end for the Chargers because Gerald Everett was out. Stone Smart. That sounds like the name of a news anchor or a weatherman. Yeah. You picked him up, plugged him in. He only got you 1.6. It's easy to look back and say this now, Kevin, but you probably could have just taken that 0. Obviously, that's not something you would have wanted to do in the heat of the moment. But yeah, fortunately, that 1.6 did not come back to bite you. Pacheco in the flex, 107 rushing yards, no catches, no touchdowns, so 13.7. Koo gets you about 13, and the Titans defense got you about, looks like 25 or so. And it was enough to get past Saquon It Ain't So this week, who they talked about it Thursday night on the podcast. Excuse me. He must have, Jay must have forgotten to put Joe Burrow in his lineup. I don't know why any sensible person would start Aaron Rodgers over Joe Burrow at this point in time. And unfortunately, Burrow scored 10 more points than Aaron Rodgers did. And this matchup would have gone the other way if you had put in Joe Burrow on time. But unfortunately, you did not, and you started Aaron Rodgers on Thursday night. He did get you 45.5 points, not a pretty respectable quarterback score, but I said, unfortunately, you would have gotten an extra 10 from Burrow and a victory in this matchup. A.J. Brown, Chase Claypool, and Tyler Boyd, 9, 3, and 6, respectively. Kamara goes for 13. Kareem Hunt goes for 7.5. Kittle went for 24.5. Freiermuth goes for 16. Tucker, your kicker, goes for about 7.5. And the Eagles defense, they tried at the end there, Jay. They got you the +3 for a victory. Had a couple sacks, a turnover. Yahoo says 13. I don't know exactly what we bumped you up to. Looks like you gained about 15 also. I actually think a lot of teams gained 15 points for some reason. This was a big defensive week for a lot of teams. So I think Kevin gained about 15. I think both of you might have gained an extra 15 from your defenses. But yeah, not quite enough. Said for Jay this week, he could have been what? You would have been 5 and 6, and right there in the hunt for the playoffs. That you would have been Kevin would have had the same record because he was 5 and 5. He is now 6 and 5. He is up in 4th place, while Jay is down now at 4 and 7 in 10th place. Taking a look at the rest of Jay's team to see if there's anything else he might have done. Said to keep starting Chase Claypool. Doesn't look like it. Christian Kirk was on a bye. Other than that, Jay, your bench said Burrow on your bench, but other than him and Kirk, your bench is pretty much a wasteland here, so there's really not much you could have done differently. Said other than, of course, start Joe Burrow, but unfortunately, that is not the case. And you are now 4 and 7 with your playoff hopes on life support. Then finally, we had the Garbage Dopes going up against Disco. The Garbage Dopes trying to win 2 in a row. Going on a little bit of a hot streak here. Trying to bring Disco down and put a damper on his playoff hopes. And the Garbage Dopes were able to pull out a victory, 127.25 to 123.85. This one was basically Brandon got beat by Brandon. Brandon Ayuk on Monday night. I think Disco, you were down. What were you down by? 10 or 11, something like that. San Francisco's defense. Yahoo says 15. I think you gained 9 probably. I think 20. Went up to 24. I think that's correct. You gained. You didn't have any long touchdown bonuses this week, so 24. Ayak had 16. So that's what, an 8-point difference there. And you lost by 4, so you gained 8 points on me. So yeah, you were down by 11 or 12 with Ayuk versus San Francisco defense. Said we were able to, the Dopes were able to pull it out. Just gonna be honest. I guess there's no podcast this week, so there won't be a soon upcoming rebuttal to this. But you already know, Disco. You lost to a team whose quarterback and kicker combined scored 13.25, and you still lost. Sorry. But yeah. Kirk Cousins goes for 15.25. Ayuk 16. Sutton's 13. Mooney 13. Big one here was Tony Pollard. 2 receiving touchdowns, including one that was a 68-yarder, I think. So he actually went for just under 40 points. Jalen Warren for the Steelers gets hurt on one of the first plays of the game and goes out after scoring 2 points. Fortunately, did not cost the victory here. Just like, let's be honest, didn't deserve a victory in this one. I don't think either one of us did, but somebody had to do it. Dalton Schultz goes for 5.2. Van Jefferson in the flex 7. And then, as I said, Gano, he actually scored -2. My kicker scored -2. And yours scored 19 points more than mine. God, I don't even know. If that would have cost me the matchup that my kicker scored -2, oh God, I mean, it would have bothered me for maybe a minute or two. But anyway, and then the Colts defense, I believe the bump was only like 3 points from 15 to 18. But just enough to get past Disco this week. Russell Wilson goes for 37. Scary Terry, 9.5. You started Kadarius Toney and Jerick McKinnon, hoping for some fireworks in that Chargers-Chiefs game. There definitely were some, but unfortunately not from your guys. Toney had 0 before going out with, once again, a hamstring injury. And then McKinnon, they're down in your flex. He was actually doing okay until he lost a fumble late in that game. That -2 didn't hurt. I mean, it didn't kill you, but it certainly didn't help. Not as bad as Tony's 0. Marshall got you 10.5. Jonathan Taylor, 16.5. Michael Carter, 2.5. Njoku, 3.5. Said McKinnon, 1.5. Your kicker, McPherson, actually goes for about 18.5 or so. He had several field goals there. And I believe I said San Francisco's defense, their score ended up being, I want to say, 24. But yeah, unfortunately, basically Brandon Ayuk, he only had 2 catches, but both of those were touchdowns. And the garbage time stats at the end of the game against Arizona last night, they didn't score any extra points. They had 10 for a while, but they did accumulate too many first downs. I think too many passing yards at the end of the game there, and actually, I think they were under 50 rushing yards towards the end. I think their quarterback, whoever they put the third string quarterback in, I think he actually ended up getting enough rushing yards to push them past 50 total, and said all that garbage time, yardage piling up, took points away from San Francisco's defense and cost Disco the victory here. Let's see. Garbage Dopes still in 12th place, as they've been pretty much all year long. 3-8, 12th place. Disco now 5-6. He is in 8th place. We'll have to run through the standings here when we get through this. All right. And we had 1 versus 2 this week. Yinzer Jags versus Biscuits and Porn. Detling says, no Cooper Kupp, no problem. I don't even need him. I'm still going to knock off Biscuits and Porn and stay in first place this week. I'll just pick up Christian Watson. He'll score a couple of touchdowns. I'll just pick up the Commanders' defense. They'll score 40 points, and I'll be fine. Which is basically what happened in this matchup. As Yinzer Jags gets the victory, 181.55 to 157.25. For Yinzers, Josh Allen, he's got a Q next to his name now again. I think, do they play on? Yeah, they play on Thanksgiving, so he's probably going to be okay. They usually do that on Wednesdays when it's a normal week, but here they play on Thanksgiving, here Thursday, so probably that Q probably isn't anything to be too worried about. Allen only scored 32.5 points here, but Amari Cooper had one of his big games that he has every 2 or 3 times a year. This time he had 2 touchdowns, 8 catches. He goes for 31.5 points. Gabe Davis goes for 11.8. Said Watson, you picked him up. He had 4 catches. 2 of them were touchdowns. He gets you 21. Saquon only goes for 5.5 against Detroit. Kind of crazy. I don't know what happened to the Giants in that matchup. Montgomery, running back, he goes for 21. Likely, your tight end, you got to start him this week because you have nobody else. I don't know if you were hoping that Mark Andrews wouldn't play, but you don't have anybody even on your bench at tight end to play. He got you 1.1. Paris Campbell in the flex gets you 11.5. Folk, your kicker, he actually looks like he missed 2 field goals in this game. Didn't do too much, got you 1 point something. And then, again, the Commanders' defense picked them up. Couple turnovers. They scored a touchdown, only gave up 10 points. Yardage was really low, too. Yahoo says 23. Looks like we must have bumped you up. I don't think you didn't have any long touchdown bonuses. So the difference here is about 21. So you actually must have gotten, you picked up Washington's defense and they get you 44 points. The only week you'll probably ever use them. But it was enough to get past Biscuits this week, who unfortunately had Matt Stafford go out with a possible concussion fairly early in the game. He got 27.5 points there before going out. So you still lost by 24.5 points or so. So you would have needed Stafford to get over 50. You don't have anybody else from the team, do you now? So that was a pretty tall task to hope for from Stafford this year. Probably wasn't going to happen. So looking at Jim's bench, let's see if anything. Said he had no Tom Brady this week. He was on bye, probably we're expecting. Said of all the weeks for your quarterback to be on bye is the one where you get the 1 versus 2 matchup where you could have jumped there into first place, but we weren't able to do it. Receivers, Olave, Devontae Smith, and Lamb, 21, 14, and 9.5 respectively. Eckler goes for 18. Scorderell actually got you a long touchdown off a kick return. So he got you 12 points. Actually, no, he would have gotten you 15. Well, technically 14.9, thanks to his long touchdown bonus there. But he didn't do too much otherwise in regular stats. Mark Andrews goes for 12.5. Singletary, 17.5. Butker goes for about 15. He kicks a couple field goals there for you. And the Bengals defense didn't do too much for you here. Yahoo says 2. I'm going to guess we bumped you up about 9 to 11. But yeah, unfortunately, since Stafford gets hurt, your guys didn't do too bad. You probably would have liked more from your defense there. Yeah, looking at your bench, really nothing else you could have done. Your guys just didn't quite come through this week. Since Stafford getting hurt, not going to say that cost you the matchup. Like I said, you would have needed him to go over 50 this week. The way he's been playing this year, not sure that's in the cards. Just looking at Stafford here real quick. Stafford's highest score all year has been 46.5. So you would have needed the best game of his season at New Orleans. That's a tough matchup, so probably wouldn't have happened here. But anyway, the point is, Yinzer Jags stays in first place. He gets up to now 9-2. Biscuits and Porn is now 8-3, but still in second place. All right, so then we did that. Well, I guess while we're talking about Detling and Yinzer Jags, this was week 11, which means it was the final week of the knockout pool. And it was Gags versus Yinzer Jags. And let's just do Gags matchup. He gets the victory over Hillbillies on PCP. And Gags to Riches this week scores 204.05, which means congratulations, Gags. You are the winner of the knockout pool this year. Congratulations to you. Said Detling, if he holds on. Gags is now up to 6th place. Probably not going to do it. So thanks to Gags winning this week, it's probably not going to happen that anyone wins the Tonto's Demise Triple Crown knockout pool, first place regular season, first place playoffs here. So unless Gags can somehow, I don't think it's actually possible for Gags to finish in first place, because he has 6 losses, Matt only has 2, which there are less games left to play than there are between games there and your losses there. So, all right, the point is, Gags won the knockout pool, and he beat Brian 204.05 to 159.45. Daniel Jones goes for 56 points this week, knocking off Brian and his golden goose, Justin Fields, talking him up all week, actually all month, really. He only went for 37 points this week and got dislocated his shoulder towards the end of the game. Not sure if he played through it a little bit, but yeah, he is now questionable for a little while. We'll see what happens there. For Gags, D-Hop, Curtis Samuel, and Keenan, 18, 10, and 12.5 respectively. Miles Sanders, just under 6. Joe Mixon, 9, before getting hurt. I don't know if in that game, I don't know if he got concussed or just had a head injury. Looks like he did he was in the concussion protocol, didn't go back in that game, which meant Samaje Perine scored a couple touchdowns. But yeah, probably not an extended absence there for you, Gags. For Mixon, probably want to do something to get Perine on your bench there going forward. Just taking a look at your bench. Yeah, Darrell Henderson. They got rid of him. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I was wondering why he actually had an NA next to his name here. So today they got rid of Darrell Henderson. Who do they have? They have Kyron Williams still for Tree Size. I don't even know who else they would have on their team as a running back. Do they still have Sony Michel? I don't think so. I think he's a Charger, isn't he? I don't even. Yeah, I don't even know who they have still. Is Cam Akers still? Well, Brian still has there. Cam Akers is still on the team. He actually had 60 yards this past week. So maybe they've mended fences here with Cam Akers. I don't know, but that's a unusual situation there. But anyway, Gags probably has the fab capital. Let's take a look here. Gags to riches, and he's still got $42 left. I don't know. But if I were you, I would probably go in there tonight and maybe get P. Ryan if you can, just to have that depth on your bench there, just in case. But anyway, I digress. Hawkinson goes for 8.5. Jarvis Landry in the flex, 12.5. Maybe your MVP this week, your kicker, Bass from Buffalo, kicks 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 field goals. Goes for 20. I don't even know. Yahoo says 22. Probably at least 23, close to 24 for you there. And then the Patriots defense pretty much crushes the Jets there. They scored a long touchdown for you towards the end of the game. A couple sacks. I mean, the yardage, the first downs, everything was complete trash for the Jets this week. So, Gags, fortunately, you didn't make the mistake of starting a different defense. I think is your other one still Jacksonville? You don't even have another defense anymore. And New England came through for you when you needed them the most this season and secured the the knockout pool for you. Yahoo says 19, and it looks like we bumped you up at least. You're 30 points more than what Yahoo says. So, did you have anybody else? I'm gonna guess you must have gotten close to 50 from the Patriots defense this week, and said it was more than enough to get you past Hillbillies on PCP, who had Fields go for 37. Devontae Adams actually goes for 33. He has 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning touchdown in overtime. DJ Moore, only 5.5. Deontay, only 6.2. Which I've completely forgotten about this, that Brian drafted Deontay this year, who I'm pretty sure was also Brian, who criticized harshly Deontay Johnson and his inability to catch the football over the last 2 years. I don't know how I'd completely forgotten about this, but then said, you bashed the guy nonstop for the last 2 years, said he's trash, he's not good, he can't catch the ball, he just can't do it, you don't think he's going to, and then you turn around this year when he's available, and you draft him, so that's interesting. Some kind of reverse psychology here in effect. I don't know what's going on. But so I wish I would have let you have him last year, because as you may recall, I drafted Deontay, and I was at that draft pick last year. I was basically flipping a coin between Deontay and Cooper Kupp, and I decided to go with Deontay instead. Josh picked Cooper Kupp right after me. And we all know how that worked out. All right, Damian Harris goes for 11.5. Hubbard, 4.5. Kelsey goes off for 3 touchdowns this week. 35.5 points. Unfortunately, a wasted effort for Brian. So 35.5 points. MVS in the flex, only 3. Zerline, your kicker, goes for about 4 point something. And your Buffalo Bills defense, Yahoo says 10. Looks like your bump was about 9 to 19. But yeah, Brian, really not much you could do in this one, as Gags gets probably over 100 points just from his buns, Jones, and the Patriots defense. I believe you must have made the mistake of dissing Jones and typing up Fields this week, and it came back to burn you pretty hard. As Gags gets the victory, both of you guys are now 5-6, and Gags actually even also gets the last laugh because he is in 6th place now, and Brian, you are in 7th place, one spot below him. All right, who else? Last matchup, Ed Logger versus Darkwing Jet. This one was never close, as unfortunately for Darkwing Jet, his TNT combo, Tua and Tyreek, was on bye this week, and so it goes. Once again, Ed Logger 197.65 to Darkwing Jet's 103.85. For Ed, he has Mahomes go for 54, Diggs 15, Thielen 4.5, T. Higgins goes for just under 24, Dalvin 7.2, Jamal Williams doesn't do too much yardage-wise, but he scores 3 touchdowns. You actually didn't start Swift this week. I thought before you had both of those guys in there. I don't think that's a horrible play because you never know. I mean, they've both been pretty productive. They're about the only things going good for that team right now. You must have put him in the. You put Kenyon Drake in the flex at the last minute there, I guess. You actually would have gone over 200 if you had kept Swift in there, but you did not. So I don't know if the podcast guys talked you out of doing that. I seem to remember that they didn't seem too keen on a move like that, but I personally would have seen no problem with that, just based on the performance of the Lions the past several weeks here. Higbee goes for 8.5. Said Kenyon Drake in the flex. He goes for 7.3. Carlson, your kicker, goes for about 13. And then the Baltimore Ravens defense. Yahoo says 22. And we must have bumped you up about 18 to about 40 or so for your defense there. So you got in the 90 to 95 point range from your buns there. So Higgins gets 24, Jamal gets 24, and it was enough to push you up to just under 200 there this week, and easily getting the victory over Darkwing Jet. He said no Tua, no Tyreek. He had, what else did he got? Mike Williams came back from injury, but seemed to re-aggravate his injury on his only catch, and then did not go back in the game, unfortunately there, Justin. Goff goes for 25. Donovan Peoples-Jones goes for 17. He's been sneaky good for the past few weeks here. We'll see what happens when Deshaun Watson comes back, which should be any time now. Nico Collins, just under 10. Said Mike Williams, 2.5 before getting hurt and going back out. James Conner, 13.4. Chubb gets you 9.5. Hurst gets you 5. Antonio Gibson gets you 13.5. Matt's Gay gets you about 10 point, I think it was 10.2 or something like that. No, it was like 11, I want to say it was 11.2, something like that, because unfortunately, Justin, you also started the Arizona Cardinals defense. It is the only one you have, and they actually scored, Yahoo says 0. They actually did score you -3. Fortunately, your kickers kicking those kicking points, extra bonus points for your kicker, the fractional points, brought you back from -3 to like -1.8 or 1.9, something like that. Must have been 1.9, looks like there. But yeah, Justin, nothing went right for you this week, unfortunately, and you dropped to 4-7. You are now in 9th place. Your playoff hopes still not out of it. Said Mike Williams re-aggravating that injury. Got to be worried about that. Hollywood Brown looks like he's going to be coming back for you soon here. So let's see. He was on IR. I think they made him eligible to come back from IR. But the Cardinals have a bye in Week 13. So they might decide to hold him out for one extra week and have the bye week to get healthy there. So that would, unfortunately, said you kind of need him to come back. I'm not sure that's going to happen this week. Justin said, as your playoff hopes are starting to dwindle there, I think I said last week, if all these guys can come back and get healthy for you for the playoff run, if you can somehow manage to work your way into the playoffs, as long as you got TNT there, Chubb's having a good season. Said if Mike Williams can get right and Hollywood Brown, that could, I mean, definitely those playoff teams would not be look forward to you as a matchup there, if it can end up happening. But so this loss definitely hurts your cause. You still have 3 weeks to go. Your best possible record now, Justin, is 7-7. So you got to hope for the best here going forward. You got to basically win out because 6-8 probably not going to be good enough for anybody. And Ed moves to 7-4. He is in 3rd place. All right, that should be every matchup here. Yeah. So I don't think 7-7. Maybe one person could make it into the playoffs if they go. But Justin, you would have to win out. Your point total is actually pretty good. That you could. I mean, if you can win out, 7-7. If somebody makes it there, you probably have a pretty decent chance. But yeah, I know it's going to be tough for you. Let's just taking a look at the standings here. I think I see Yinzer Jags actually has an asterisk for clinching a playoff spot already. He's now 1 game ahead of Biscuits, who is 1 game ahead of Ed. Everybody, and we got 2 6-5s, 3 5-6s, and then 3 4-7s. So basically, said Ed's got 7. He basically just has to win one more time to get 8, and in the next 3 weeks, he's all but clinched a playoff spot. Biscuits, he's already got 8. So that between Yinzer Jags, Biscuits, and Porn, Ed Logger, that's half the playoff spots. Pretty much, we can safely say locked up at this point. Then we got Dub C and Shawshank. Said Josh on a 3-game skid right now, needs to turn that around. Dub C. Then we got Gags, Brian, and Disco at 5 and 6. Only 1 game separating all of those guys. All your point totals are want to say they're not. I mean, Hillbillies is a decent ways behind of those 4 teams there, 5 teams. So Disco, he's even further behind in terms of overall points. But yeah, it's going to be the Darkwing Jet, Saquon, Possums, even 4 and 7. All those guys pretty close in overall point totals as well. Between Justin, Jay, and Tree. So those 3 guys said they have to win out to have a 7-7 record. So any more losses for them probably puts them out and means the last 3 playoff spots most likely going to come down to a race between Kevin, Josh, Gags, Brian, and Disco, with perhaps one of those other guys. So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 spots basically being fought for by 5 guys. So who's not going to make it? Maybe Justin could possibly put it together. I don't know. But that's what 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 spots being fought for by 5 or 6 people. So don't expect a huge shift in the standings here going forward. Just a matter of basically in like who's in the top 6, who's in the bottom 6 here. So going forward, I don't expect too many surprises, but it's going to be a dogfight here for those last 3 spots between you guys. taking a look at Week 12 to see who does all those teams on the playoff bubble there are. So Jay, basically, he needs to win out. There's no podcast this week, so we might as well talk a little bit about what's going to be coming up here in Week 12. Jay going up against the Garbage Dopes. Garbage trying to play spoiler, take people down with him. Hopefully we knocked Disco down a peg. We knocked Josh down a peg. Hopefully we can take Jay down one peg this week and perhaps take his playoff hopes out from under him. Going up, so that matchup. Josh is going up against Biscuits. Josh trying to get a win here. Said he's on a 3-game skid, trying to bounce back. Versus Biscuits, who is at 8-3. A victory here. I mean, Biscuits is pretty much solidified a playoff spot. I think it's safe for us to say. Josh, if he loses this week, he could fall all the way from 6-2 to 6-6 and be in a tough spot there. Dub C versus Justin. I don't know if he changed his line. He didn't change his lineup yet. I'm sure he's going to put Tua and Tyreek in there. He still has it the same. Tua and Tyreek are playing Houston. That could be pretty dangerous for you there, Kevin. In terms of trying to keep your hopes alive. So again, if Kevin loses this matchup, he would drop to 6-6, while Justin could potentially go to 5-7 and be one game behind those guys. So important matchup here for Dub C. The victory for him would get him to 7 wins and move Justin to 8 losses. So it's sort of just like Jay, that would probably be the end of Justin's playoff hopes. So all those guys who are 4-7, basically you have no choice. You have to win out here. Then we've got, speaking of having to win out, Possum Magic versus Disco. Both teams said, if this could be the final nail in Possum Magic's coffin, if Disco can get the victory, which he desperately needs as well, to get back to 6-6. But yeah, if Possum Magic, he could be 5-7. If he wins, they would both be 5-7. So yeah, this is a big important matchup for both of those guys. Said Possum, if he loses, that would be loss number 8, and his season would probably be pretty much lost. Gags versus Ed, that should be a good matchup here. Gags is 5-6, trying to get back to 500. Ed is 7-4, trying to work his way up into a possible first round bye. So we will see what happens there. Ed projected to win, but Gags, he needs this one pretty badly. Said you don't want to drop to 5-7 with 2 weeks left to go, meaning your best record possible is 7-7. So Gags, you really need this one. Ed, a loss here wouldn't hurt you, but I'm sure you would much rather have the victory. Just taking a look at your guys' lineups here. Gags has Patriots defense at Minnesota. Could be pretty good after what Dallas did to Minnesota last week. I definitely have Kirk Cousins on the bench this week. Their offensive line could not handle the Cowboys' defensive line there. But other than that, I mean, Baltimore defense for Ed versus Jacksonville. His running backs, Swift and Williams versus Buffalo on Thanksgiving there. That could be a little bit tricky. Dalvin versus the Patriots defense. That's going to be a tough matchup. Thielen also. We got him versus the not the Dallas Cowboys. The Patriots defense there. So, big matchup here on Thanksgiving night for Gags and Ed, featuring the Patriots and the Vikings here. If Gags can get a big performance from the Patriots defense and pretty much shut down Dalvin and Thielen, although Gags also has T.J. Hawkinson as his tight end. But yeah, if Patriots defense can have a pretty good game and kind of shut down Ed's players, that could definitely swing this matchup in favor of Gags in a week where he definitely needs it. So we will see what happens. You got several guys here on Thanksgiving. Diggs is going. Also on Thursday for Ed. Gags has Kyler Murray back in there as his starter. Don't know if he's going to He's going to be back this week, which is a difficult spot for Gags to be in because his other quarterback is Daniel Jones, who plays on Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I guess if Kyler Murray ends up not playing on Sunday, Gags is going to have to. He's got Marcus Mariota on his bench as well. That's a tricky spot, Gags, for you to be in. So we'll have to see what happens there. You have the Buffalo kicker, Patriots defense, and Hawkinson there on Thanksgiving. So we should definitely have a pretty clearer image of how this matchup is going to shape up after Thanksgiving there. Diggs at Detroit, Buffalo, that could be a big one for Ed too there. So, that's going to be an interesting one to watch. What else we got? Go on Yahoo. Then we got Brian versus Detling. Yinzer Jags versus Hillbillies. Brian needs this one. If he loses, that's loss number 7. He would probably have to win out. Your matchup, your projections are pretty similar here. He's got Dak instead of Fields this week. Both of your quarterbacks play on Thursday. So Detling has Gabe Davis, Saquon on Thursday. His kicker on Thursday. Brian has Dak on Thursday. And your Buffalo Bills defense at Detroit. That could be a good one there for Thursday here. So that would be an interesting matchup here. Obviously, Detling on cruise control pretty much the rest of the way. He's in the playoffs, just a matter of can he lock up the number 1 seed or at least a playoff bye week here with 3 weeks left to go. He's got 3 games left to go. He's got a 2-game lead over Ed, 1-game lead over Jim here. So, yeah. It's going to, the top 2 there, Yinzer Jags, Biscuits, probably going to go back and forth a little bit. Detling actually has over a 100-point lead on Biscuits right now. So so basically you definitely have a 1-game cushion at least there going forward in terms of positioning over Jim. So going forward these last 3 weeks for Yinzer Jags, he would have to lose 2 of 3 going forward here, probably to get knocked out of first place, thanks to everybody else being so far behind. Let's take a look at his schedule. So certainly no guarantee here because Yinzer Jags has to play Brian, he has to play Josh, and he has to play Ed. So he's got all teams left to go here who are definitely in the hunt and could very well knock him off at any time here, especially said since he's got no Cooper Kupp. Kind of things are going a little bit tricky for him. So kind of got lucky there with the Washington defense. You got Miami's defense playing Houston this week. That should be pretty good. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah. I didn't even have Walker this past week, and he still managed to score 190 some points. All right, anyway, I think that is just about everything for week 11. So congratulations again to Gags for winning the knockout pool. So we kind of ran through the upcoming matchups here. We are back to the week 1 rematches. here in week 12. Yeah. For the most part, there's at least one team in every matchup that has to win. Unfortunately, let's see, how many matchups do we have where both teams need the victory? I would definitely say Dub C versus Darkwing. Both of you want to get that. Disco and Possum, both you guys need that victory. Ed and Gags. Gags needs it, I would say, way more than Ed does. And Brian needs it way more than Detling. But so Detling's been rolling over pretty much everybody this year. So we'll have to see. So Jay needs this one. I really don't care what happens, but all right. That's pretty much it. I don't think that we had any real significant injuries or anything crazy this past week. I don't even know who's going to be the Yahoo or the YouTube logo photo for this week's recap, because I don't really know who took off and had a crazy week this week in a matchup that really mattered. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Debo, I guess, because he got the victory for Dub C. I don't know yet, but anyway, yeah, I don't think there were no really huge performances. There was a lot of good defensive scores this week, like I said, and don't think that there were any real significant injuries. So Jim lost his quarterback to a concussion, but that's not no real season enders, I think. Am I missing? I feel like I'm missing somebody. Well, Wandale Robinson tore his ACL, but I don't really think that's going to affect too much here. But yeah, all right. That should be about it for week 11. Going into week 12, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hope you have a wonderful time with your families. Make sure you don't get into any political arguments with your drunk uncles or whatever happens to be. Hopefully all your teams and your players meet or exceed expectations. Nobody gets hurt this week. We're all thankful, and we come back next week after Thanksgiving to recap the events of week 12. All right, I think that's it. Kevin, I think your dog just pissed right over there. Thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. Once again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we will see you back here. I guess we still have to do it and recap the events of week 12 as we get one step closer to the playoffs. And we should have perhaps a bit of a better picture on who the teams in that last three-spot playoff race is going to end up. So it should be probably going to come down to the wire, I'm going to guess. The way the matchups and the standings are going here. So come down to who. It's going to be a dogfight to the end for those last three playoff spots. So personally, I don't care what goes on anymore, but it's certainly going to be interesting for 5 or 6 of you guys here still. So it'd be interesting for you guys, and so that always makes it way more fun if things aren't secured playoff wise until the very last week. Quite often, it seems like go back and forth quite a bit year to year. But it's definitely way more fun when it comes down to like the very last week to actually make or break you in terms of making it into the playoffs here. So, all right, we are about to crack an hour. I said goodbye like 2 minutes ago. So once again, all right, everyone, we will see you. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll come back here next week to talk about the events of week 12. All right, bye guys, and thanks.